Bienvenidos y bienvenidas otra vez. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Welcome to PNN KHU Poor People's Revolutionary Radio at 96.1 on the dial in East Oakland, Huchin Territory, and streaming live online at www.poormagazine.org/radio. This is your co-host Muteado Silencio con voces de inmigrantes en resistencia. In studio with fellow formerly houseless poet and poverty scholar mi canala Tiny, and youth poverty scholar Tiburcio Garcia on the ones and twos, also with a special case coming up.
To all the women you don't see, to all the women you don't see or hear on Women's Herstory Month, to the toe-up woman and the also brutally alone women, in our trauma women and our screaming everyday women and the purposely forgotten houseless women, to the colonial poisoned and destroyed women and the walk by us and you don't see us women, to the missing murdered indigenous women, to the too difficult to be with aunties and sisters and daughters and the mamas with so many memories we can't shake or stop trying to remake women. Yeah, this is PNN, not CNN, people. What's up? And this is Women's Herstory Month. Poor and Houseless Women's Herstory Month. Disabled and Indigenous and Refugee Women's Herstory Month. What day?
You just heard an excerpt, podcast, from a poverty scholar for all women you don't see in Women's History Month. This special broadcast of Poor People's Radio is dedicated to houseless, disabled women, sweep surviving women, and ancestor women of homelessness, and the ways we heal through spirit and community. In honor of a prayer walk march procession, we're organizing for Women's Herstory Month. On Wednesday, tomorrow, March 11, in Acopayelamo, San Francisco, we're gathering at 11 a.m. at Market in Montgomery above the BART station. One of the many places houseless, disabled women have been moved, evicted, and swept. First, we will hear from Ruthless Radio houseless woman survivor in Huchun and Yelamo, struggling with the violence, trying to stay alive outside because of the lie of rent and then being swept like we are trash.
Currently homeless and living in my car with my two children and their father.
Okay. How did you become homeless?
My mother left and we got cut off our Section 8. The rent went to full price and I wasn't unable to pay it. So I stayed as long as I could until they kicked me out.
And did you try to get other housing?
Yeah. I tried to go to the Oakland Housing Authority and so I signed the papers because the lady assured me that it would go on my name since my mom up and abandoned us. But I guess they it didn't work that way because they ended up sending me a denial letter and then I had to move out.
And so if you were able to be housed and your family would be safe, and you've looked for places, but you just can't get the money to the first and last, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else that you'd like to say about your situation right now?
I just try to keep my faith and, pray that it gets better, but it's, really hard each day to wonder where you're going to sleep or, is it going to be safe or, how's the night going to go? And then getting up in the morning, having to use the park bathroom to, get ready and then it's like when my kids have to use the bathroom, it makes it harder too and then warming food up and cooking and stuff, it makes it really hard.
Okay. Mateo, just want to lift up. That's just one of so many of our stories when we're basically trying to stay alive on the street. I want to shout out to my mama Deefa, without whom there be no me, as a child of that homelessness that Sister Fawn spoke about. That's a different kind of terror. And then later in my life, when I was a mama, trying to keep my child safe. These are the women that we don't see, and this is what today is dedicated to. but it's also dedicated to how we heal. That kind of trauma never leaves you, um, and there's a lot of brokenness left inside of us. Um, it's one of the reasons that homefulness, a homeless people solution, homelessness incorporates different forms of healing. And I don't just mean from the big pharma and the systems that are there to predate and profit off of every poor person they get, but I'm talking about healing from our cultures, healing from the things that colonization, handily took away from us. Which is why we are so blessed to have one of our sister warriors in studio today with us, who herself came out of all of that struggle, all of our collective struggle of homelessness and poverty and other forms of results of that life. But just recently, along with community support, had the blessing and the healing of going back into her culture and lifting up a journey, a spiritual journey. Ifalayo, welcome back to Poor People's Radio.
Thank you, thank you. Aburo Abuye, Tiny and Mute.
Ashe. So, first of all, maybe you could just ground listeners in a little bit of, your her story of homelessness and and then coming into homefulness as one of our, of course, our radical residents now.
Yes, well, I was unhoused on Wood Street, which was at the time Oakland's largest encampment. Over 300 people lived there. I lived there for 10 years. Just to tie it into, me reaching this spiritual journey, when I was in jail one time, I heard a woman in there speaking about a traditional African religion called Ifa. And so when I got out, I started doing research and learning how to do ancestor veneration. And I believe really being connected with that higher power, slowly moved me in the path, gave me the courage to know that this wasn't the end all for me, that there is a better life looking forward. And so once they destroyed our community, it was bittersweet for me, but it was a time that now I needed to get my life together so I could continue this fight for those that are still experiencing homelessness. And through that time of me getting myself physically well, really got close and connected with Porn Magazine. And, you helped me get into treatment. And then now you told me, once you do this part, we got you forever. And so then I became the 16th resident of Homefulness 2 years ago.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Oh.
Oh, Mateo. And that's in and of itself, of course, the healing of homing, right? But like we always say, when we outside, we don't just need a roof. We need all these other things as well. I just wanted to, as we transition into the spiritual journey, Tibu, can you pull up that little cut just to bring us into that medicine? Just a couple seconds of that.
Was it muted?
Hold on, relatives. We're trying to play this beautiful sound. It may or may not. There we go. Oh. So you can bring it down a little bit. So this is live drum, the healing drum that Ifalayo brought back. So Ifalayo, tell us about this walk into your culture, and also just why that is so important and so powerful for us poor people, specifically poor women, to even be able to take these spiritual journeys and coming out of all of the things we've been through.
I mean, I'll speak for me. I am biracial. My mother's white, my father's black, and I was also raised by my mother. And so really lacking the tradition that comes from, being in an African American family, she tried her best. But there's also like the connection that I wanted to have. I've always really been interested in our own traditions and our own cultures, especially living here at Homefulness. And, you know, we practice a lot of the Aztec and Mexica culture here. And so, you know, wanting to dive in deep and explore more of that. And so, like I said, I was, you know, learning more about Ifa and Isheshe, and I had the calling that it was time for me to take the next step and, you know, do the Itefa ceremony, which is the ceremony where we get our life Odu, basically our blueprint for life. We all have a destiny before we come to Earth. And a lot of times when we struggle, it's because we're not aligned with that destiny. And so, what this ceremony does is basically tells us like what we should adhere to, what we should stay away from, to help us be the best person, human that we can be while we're on this earth. And yeah, so I took a chance and I went out there, and it was the most wonderful experience. As a Black person growing up in the United States, there's so much of our rites of passage, there's so much of our culture that we never learn about. And so just being around people that have carried these traditions for thousands of years, to go to sacred sites, to see people celebrating wearing their traditional clothing, was all just, it was so wonderful. It was a gift to do that. And so those drums were you know, when you also do this ceremony, it's all about community. Like, a lot of those people didn't know who I was, but it's because, you know, they're welcoming back home, and everybody is invested in the community and growing this way of life. And so, yes, they hired drummers to come follow us. There was probably about 50 people that day that participated in the ceremony, and it takes community. It can't just be one or two people doing it. And so, yes, just so grateful for all of the men and women that were a part of that life-changing ceremony for me.
Ashe. I mean, there's a lot of pieces. Tivo, again, if you could bring up this next video and maybe you could kind of narrate a little bit of what we're seeing. I mean, part of the thing I think that's important to name is once you're coming from the United Snakes, you know, the stolen land, just, you know, recognizing that there's a somewhat of a tendency to fetishize a lot of our indigenous cultures, to really not overstand the history of colonization, the violence that these imperial colonial governments have done to our spaces and places. And then what's our role in that, you know, as victims of that same colonial terror right here. But let's just show a little bit of this. These are some of the pictures.
Yes, so this was the day of Ibodu. So this is my Ojubona, which is like a second father in the initiation ceremony, and he basically stayed with me the whole time. I was so grateful for him. He spoke very patiently and gentle to me. There were times where my eyes were closed or blindfolded, and all I could hear was his voice, you know, directing me. But this is the second day of the initiation, and he basically, you know, is the eyes of the road and guided me through the whole process. And so this is praying before we start walking to the Ibodu. But your Ojubona is very important. Whenever we pray, we always pray for our Ojubona also.
Ashe. And
his name is Ifatayo.
Ashe. And so in that process, of walking in with humility. How did you feel, first of all, as coming from the United States, and how does that kind of land on relatives there?
You know, I had to I had to let them know that I'm coming here to learn the tradition of my ancestors. So please don't go out of your way to overcompensate. Or I also was coming with the weight of, there are a lot of American people that go there and what you said, fetishize, but also
Mm,
like, oh, these are poor people, so they're willing to take whatever, or
mm,
just really ugly. And so it was not only like me debunking my own myths or the things that the media tries to tell us about Africa and Nigeria, but also me showing not all Americans are like this. Me, I come from a place filled with community. I was constantly telling them about where I live at. We live rent free. We're always honoring different traditions there. We always are taking care of the community. And so I'm not like, the normal ugly American that's coming. Like, I'm coming with complete humility. Like, I'm very serious and also so grateful that they opened up their space for me, that they're bringing all their knowledge and their prayers for me. I really felt like, I there was no actually any times that I was really uncomfortable, but I was already prepared. Like, if there were times, to push through that there have also been harder times in my life living here in America, and just channeling those times. Like, not, there was also, I just want to say that it was so powerful for me having this experience, and I would cry sometimes when was praying, because knowing that I never have to live in the dark anymore, that this part of my life is sealed, and now I can be the best version of myself for my community. But yes, there were many conversations with my host that cared for me and brought me there, about how he also grew up learning that you're not to trust Americans. Unibos. Anybody who's American is an Unibo. And Unibo means white person, but they all see us as white. And yeah, they don't trust us, but
Wow.
everybody looks out for each other. I did not see one homeless person there. And the way that people were lived, they were thriving, they were happy, they were in community, they had family. It was just beautiful to see, because the way that media even views unhoused people, like, oh, they're poor unfortunate souls. No, they're not. No, we're not. We're living our best life. We're with the hand that we were dealt.
That's right. I mean, that's one of the things. There's two things I just want to bookmark here. First of all, is there's an interesting tension when foreign houseless people specifically even have the privilege of travel, right? So there's the piece about the bloodstained dollars, and that's real. But I want to talk about that too. But I want to start with that interesting thing where, you know, people from the West, whether it be Western Europe, or Americlan or Canada or whatever, Canada, um, come with this entitlement, or again, the sort of fetishizing, I'm going to be one of the people, blah, 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 but never with this understanding and overstanding, or rarely with the overstanding that we actually are the ones who have, we have to bring the gifts, right? That we have to bring the repair. That there's a lot of intentional colonial poverty and violence that's happened on a lot of our indigenous lands, right? But what I was interesting about is that one of the things that you noted is that they were trying to, you know, in a way pamper you and not have you stay on the in the dirt floor, and your response to that.
Yeah, I said, when us, serious African Americans that are returning home to learn specifically about spirituality, we're going to learn the tradition of our ancestors. Like, we're not going for vacation, we're going for deep spiritual work. And although I was grateful, I also wanted to, have the experience just like they do traditionally for anybody, even if they're born and raised in Nigeria. So I told them, like, no, I'm good. Like, you don't have to. They paved the floor in the temple and painted the walls, and they were just they treated me like a queen there.
Okay.
I never had to carry a bag or open a door, or if my face changed, they were like, "Yeah, do you need anything?" And I hope that that's how they treat everybody. I also didn't want to get spoiled, or I don't know. I was grateful. They really took care of me really
That
well.
part.
It was so
But
nice.
then also, Ephraim said, "Hey, you don't even know what I come from, okay?"
Oh yes,
That,
like they're like, oh, we need to make sure you're near a toilet, and we need to make sure you have electricity. And I'm like, look, I lived on the streets for 10 years. Give me a bucket and a bag and I'll be okay. And
okay.
I think that also like let them warm up to me some. They're like, oh, okay, she's not being like bougie or whatever. Yes, I can go to the same spot everybody else goes to use the bathroom.
Okay.
And, just always going with humility, and always trying to also, learn their traditions. Like in the morning, you get up and you greet everyone, and you bow, and you say certain greetings to people. You don't just walk by people. I wouldn't hear, and they'd be like, she's greeting you, he's greeting you, and oh my gosh, okay, sorry, ekasa, ekale, and
that's what's up.
yeah,
I mean, the deference and is the embodiment of that radical interdependence, right? The respect, the things that we actually kind of, to our best ability here as a multi-nation for an indigenous people-led movement, try to actually teach our young people and practice. But we can't, we didn't come from that life. But that's so beautiful, and that's how humans need to treat each other, right?
Speaking of young people,
Yeah.
it's lovely seeing a 7-year-old, a 12-year-old Babalawo who has been initiated, who can, chant Odu, that we're doing all the same work that the grown men were doing. Like having the medicine of the youth there was really special. And, that everybody bring, even the babies, you bring all the babies, and all the children are all there to learn. And it's just in family.
Ashe. The last thing I want to talk about is, it took resources to get there. I do want to shout out to our Bank of Community Reparations,
Yes.
who are not the only folks. Also, Wood Street Commons put it out, and other relatives, but I think in your own family some too. But it's real important, because I need to say that, and one of the things we teach on at People School to folks who ain't never missed a meal, who hadn't had the lives we've had, that we lovingly call in to repair, not us, but themselves, from these violent individualism that the system teaches people to only care about you. But the revolution and the act of resistance of travel for poor people, not casual travel, not we're going to go to, the beach in Florida and hang out, which is theoretically maybe okay too. But as my mama used to say, we don't ever get a chance to rest, much less take time for that sole purpose. But deeper than that is taking space to bring back what was stolen from us. So I want to first of all thank the reparators for kicking down so Sis could go, and all the other relatives. But I want to ask you to speak a little on that repair and the power of you, who's dealt with that poverty and that homelessness and that one day not having even enough for a meal, much less a roof. Having this this space to do the spiritual healing?
Well, when I decided I wanted to try to put energy towards going, um, I didn't. I mean, I
Yep. Yep.
I didn't have. I'm on general assistance still,
Okay. Okay.
and it seemed really big and grandiose, and but I believe that with the energy of prayer, with the support of the community, with people believing in me, that's what made this happen. And there were even times of doubt, and I know I bothered you, like I don't know if I'm gonna get there. And to also the message and the learning is to be patient and trust the process. And if this is meant for you, then it'll happen. And the community showed up for me so much, and I'm so grateful for the community giving me that chance and believing in me and trusting me from going to, years ago. It's like they didn't want to give me $20 because they didn't know what I was gonna spend it on, but people giving me thousands of dollars and trusting that I'm really doing what I was going to do. And so that just having the support of people, not turning away or not believing me, really was like something to be forever grateful to be able to bring back the traditions to people here, especially around the work that I do around recovery. Everybody doesn't, mesh with the 12-step model that's really centered around a Christian lens. And so for me, being connected to my own spiritual tradition and culture of being African American was really key and really gave me the foundation and the strength to be where I am today. And so that's also why I do this work, to learn those types of healing ways to bring back, because obviously in Oakland, African Americans are disproportionately, represented being unhoused, especially like in District 3 and District 7 where we live at. But
Yeah. And
just having another way that people can connect and start to live their own healthy life, or just, ask their own ancestors to walk with them, and to be able to show them ways, and to be able to show them ways that I'm learning, and also ways that have worked for me.
Ashe. And I want to say to people who are listening and viewing us, first of all, that you're listening and viewing Poor People's Radio. That's PNN, not CNN. And we're dedicating today's show to women's herstory, the women you don't see in herstory and history, but specifically also the ways that we heal. I want to name that one of the crucial elements that makes homefulness even happen is our integration of multiple forms of healing. One is through healing through our spirit. My brother Mut and all the work that he brings in. Shout out to Xochitl and Sauda, who have brought in Ifa. I was originally, I'm a child of Eshu. My mom is a child of a Shango, who did one of our original, readings and brought ceremony to open homefulness. Who we say the revolution will not be melted in a pot. Whether you pray to Mama Earth or you pray in a church. And it's all love, it's all respect, no matter how you come to spirit. And if you don't come to spirit at all, respect for that. But these ways that we support each other to lift up the cultures, the traditions, the love, and the ways that we survive by any means necessary. And sometimes that is in a colonial church, praying to, as my sister Nandi calls it, white Jesus. Sometimes it is in many different traditions. So again, all love and respect. I say that to say we also have a very crucial element to hopefulness, which is our healing hub. And Sister Ifalayo, along with Efam, shout out to Ashel and Xochitl and Gerard and Maya and all the relatives who also supported Ifalayo in her journey coming out of addiction, is also now part of our healing hub that we do. The next one is coming up March 20th, right here on the land. It's open to everybody, specifically space for houseless and poor people, healing. Can you talk a little bit about that, huh?
Yes, just a space where people can come and learn different ways of healing. Either it's through acupuncture or, body work. We have talk therapy. We usually start off with a talk circle so we can kind of ground folks and see where folks are at. In the past, we've had chiropractor and a licensed physician here. But it's really just having a safe space where people can come and be in community and, start the conversation about their own health.
Ashe. Come through if you want to 8032 Black Arthur. That's Mac Arthur here on Deep East Uchun. Again, coming up Friday, March 20th at 10 a.m. The other thing is, the multiple ways that housing needs to incorporate healing, and that the ways that these politricksters never overstand that. Shout out to Wood Street Commons. Shout out to all Self-Help Hunger Program, to all of our beautiful sisters and brothers. And as we close out today, again, honoring, the women who unfortunately oftentimes are broken by this system, but also the ways that we can lift ourselves up.
And women, in the Isheshe tradition are when we do any rituals, we always call our mother's name, because the woman is the bridge between the ancestors and the earth. And so very important to always have women represented and women a part of all the spiritual work that's going on, paying homage to the mothers.
Ashe. And listen for Sister Ifa Layo's segment on Poor People's Radio called The Addiction Doula, which will be coming up probably on the next show. Can we talk a little bit about what's happening for, International Women's Month, etc., aka our journey to honor houseless, indigenous, refugee, disabled, and comfort women? What day can you say a little bit what's happening on Wednesday?
Yes, again,
Bring up the image to you.
thank you, Anifa Ifalayo, for bringing out those powerful words, sharing your journey. And again, like my sister Tiny was saying, this is medicine that sometimes we don't hear even on these mainstream rallies, right? We have the same kind of activists over and over again. And no, it is what it is. But again, to know that we have folks like Ifalayo, who comes from the community, who comes from the hood, that's the Wood Street Wood, hood. And what I'm trying to say again, this is the kind of voices you will hear on March 11th on Wednesday at Market Montgomery at 11 a.m. And again, it's time to lift these voices of the unheard women, African houseless women that sometimes don't even make it to the microphone, to the megaphone, in some of these rallies. So please, family, community, join us this coming Wednesday at 11 a.m. at Montgomery in Market as we continue to celebrate Women's Month, but not only in March, but every day. That's how we do it right here at Homefulness Poor Magazine. So please join us.
Ashe. And of course, there will be prayer in this tradition by Sister Ifalayo and many others. Do you want to add anything?
No, just come out and, honor the women that people usually look away from or don't think of, or, don't even recognize as women. A lot of times they don't even treat us like we're human. So of course they won't, like we're women.
Ashe. That's so real. Yeah.
Sorry.
You listen to P and not C and people. We do it our best. I appreciate all the listeners and viewers. You are family. Mood, I think there's one last thing we're going to be offering folks, and then we close it out.
I knew that. Again,
No, we're just going to be playing the poem cast.
yes, thank you, Tiny,
It's all
helping me out
good.
here. We're doing live radio, live and
Doing
direct
our
from
best.
Cochin territory
And doing our
at
best.
7 in the morning.
Yes. Very
Yes.
early.
Our last offering, from talking about revolutionary women, our last offering will be a poemcast from Poverty Scholar with images from the powerful International Workers' Women's Day March on March 8th that happened here in Huchun. The first boy you will hear is from Aloni Lejean, Land Protector and Warrior, our Auntie Karina Go.
Go ahead, T.
Oh, I thought that was more.
We're standing at a village site that has now been erased. When we look at women's work and the work across the world that women have done, we look at erasure.
To all the women you don't see, you don't hear. To the toe-up woman, and the also brutally alone in our trauma women, and the screaming everyday women, and the purposely forgotten houseless women, to the pharmaceutically colonial poisoned and destroyed women, and the walk by us and you don't see us women, to the missing, murdered indigenous women you don't look for because you don't think we matter women, to the too difficult to be with aunties and the sisters and the daughters and the mamas with so many memories we can't shake or stop trying to remake women. To the women so filled with loss, we are buried under the gauze. To the mamas you tried to lose on the sides of every road, women, to the women you never chose, woman. To the women you say you lost because their choices were wrong, women, to my broken, disabled mama who refused to give up, even though everything was stacked up to make her drop, women. To my sisters and nieces and daughters who I miss so much, but who couldn't live inside their broken minds even one more day or one more time, women. It's our day. It's our month. Cry for us in every way. Hold us all close and please don't look away. From Turtle Island to Palestine to Haiti, women, to foster homes and pimp strohs and the tent and the tarps, right down the road, women.
I gotta walk to the bus stop. I gotta be.
Again, beautiful song by these warrior women. Join us tomorrow in Yelamo, San Francisco at 11 a.m. at Market in Montgomery as we walk for all of these unseen indigenous refugees, disabled, houseless women, and end with the Comfort Women Memorial, which honors poor women enslaved by imperial wars, a moment in history that must be lifted. So that's all for this edition of Poor People's Radio. To get our complete podcast, you could go to Poor Magazine on SoundCloud or poormagazine.org or whatever you get your podcast from. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, Blue Sky at Poor Magazine or at Poverty Scholar or Poor News Network on YouTube. All power to the people.
Power!
And power to the mujeres.
Woo!
Yes.
See you tomorrow, family.